I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I've got with me Jesse Futia. Jesse is a military veteran, and we're going to talk a little bit about his story and let him kind of go through all the details of sort of what brought him to me today and his real estate investing journey. So Jesse, thanks for being on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm great, Jason. Thanks again, brother, for having me on. We got linked together through Jim Biggs' GOB network, which is an awesome organization. Everything he does for real estate investors who, across the entire spectrum, everybody from the beginner to more experienced. So it's cool that we were able to get linked together in that. And it's awesome to be on the show today. I'm pretty excited. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for being here. Why don't you just go ahead and tell people about you and, kind of your story, and we'll dive into, we'll sort of let it go wherever it goes, and we'll dive into whatever we decide.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's great to be on the show today. Jesse Futia. I'm 25 years old, born and raised in upstate New York. My daytime W-2 job, and I'll kind of back up once we get going here, but my daytime W-2 job is I'm a U.S. Army Ranger stationed down on Fort Benning, Georgia, which is in Columbus, Georgia. Mm-hmm. Again, growing up kind of in New York State, upstate area, I always knew I wanted to be in the military growing up and, wanting to serve this country and be a patriot and stuff like that. So that's always been a huge goal and kind of part of my why and what's kind of gotten me to today. So, but again, I grew up in upstate New York. I went to school up there at SUNY Albany. So basically I went to school, the Army paid for my 4 years. And then when I graduated from Albany, I commissioned into the United States Army as an officer through what's called ROTC, or the Reserve Officer Training Corps. So that was an awesome opportunity. It was cool to be a part of a team in college, even though it wasn't like a sports team or anything. I played sports my whole life, but the Army kind of gave me that aspect of being on a team. So that was kind of fulfilling in the college aspect. Yep. Once I graduated college, it was like, where do I want to do, or what do I want to do in the Army? Where am I trying to go? And, my mentality of, my entire life has kind of been, I want to be where the best are, and do what the best do. And that's what kind of drove me towards the U.S. Army Rangers. And I completed the U.S. Army Ranger School. So 61 days down in Georgia, split between 3 phases, which is, you can imagine pretty challenging physically and also mentally. So that was an awesome opportunity. Yeah. A lot of mental toughness and stuff that goes into that, figuring out the type of character that you have and the type of person you are. So that was an awesome opportunity. And then also doing things like airborne school, air assault school, mountain warfare school. I've done a bunch of other schools and stuff like that. And then like I said, I assessed to be in the 75th Ranger Regiment, which is basically the special operations branch of the U.S. Army Rangers. And that's kind of where I currently reside today in my W-2 job. But yeah, military is a huge part of my life. I've got a lot of respect. There's guys out there in my own organization and other organizations that have done way more than I have. I mean, I've only been in 4 years and deployed once, but I mean, there are men and women out there that have deployed double-digit times and have done far more for this country than I have. But it's still obviously a super proud part of my life, and it has been a huge attributor, kind of like to my why. And kind of what I mentioned before, growing up in New York, like obviously being from New York State, like 9/11 is kind of a piece of that state's history. Yeah. And before the last deployment that I went on in spring of 2020 to the Middle East, it was actually a super interesting kind of story. I reached out to members of the FDNY, the fire department in New York City, and I actually was able to get a piece of steel rebar from the South Tower of World Trade Center too. So that was something kind of interesting. And Yeah, something interesting that I brought with myself on that deployment and kept it in my kit, and brought it obviously to the other side of the world. So, when you're looking at that why of like the military and stuff like that, it all really branches from that. I mean, when people think in New York, especially, like, we're going to get into real estate here, but when people think in New York, they probably think of like taxes, and they think of rent control, they think of tenant friendly laws, they think of, like, I don't know, probably Andrew Cuomo and the things that he's done. But and all that's true. I'm not saying that that's not true, but I think of New York, I think of like NYPD, I think of like FDNY and the brave men and women who serve that state and who were affected by that day. So that's big in my why. I mean, 9/11 has always been a part of my past, and has driven me to be the best and to be in special ops, and to be a U.S. Army Ranger, and to carry a piece of the World Trade Center on myself to the other side of the world, which was an incredible opportunity. So, but yeah, a lot of challenges there and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a cool opportunity.
That's phenomenal. I mean, and thank you for your service. I mean, don't sell yourself short. Sure, there's people that have maybe deployed more times, but you're a young guy. You're serving the country. Like, your story gives me chills, and I'm very inspired. So don't ever apologize for not. Or don't think you're not there. You're that, like, you're great. So in the piece of the World Trade Center, I mean, I'm about 20 years older than you, so it was a different phase in my life, 9/11, and so, but a very impactful, obviously impactful moment for everybody. I'm from Boston, so I'm a Northeaster myself. We probably can't be friends over sports teams, but we know the Northeast, sort of, I think that's a similar blue collar mentality. And, just like you said, the FDNY, absolutely. I mean, we had the bombing, the Boston Marathon bombing, and it's like, I don't even know if you can see the behind me, that top shelf there, that's a bat that's signed by David Ortiz from his famous speech after the Boston Marathon bombing, where he said, "This is our fucking city." Awesome. Like, that's so that stuff, I completely share that sort of solidarity to home. I mean, really, I live in Los Angeles now, but Boston is home to me. It always will be home to me, and I understand your ties to New York State and all of that. So for sure. But again, thank you for your service. So you're currently active duty. You're you said in Georgia?
Yeah. So I'm just stationed down here in Columbus, Georgia, probably like an hour and a half from Atlanta. Okay. But yeah, born and raised in upstate New York, but yeah, currently residing in West Georgia. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
But yeah.
And as far as, so I actually kind of love the idea to coming back to your story again, but let's talk a little bit about real estate and sort of what got you started there. And you said you want to be the best of the best. And so you're probably looking at everybody who's accomplishing a lot in real estate, as am I, and sort of setting lofty expectations and goals for yourself. So how does that look for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of funny how I got into real estate. It was 5 years ago when I was in college. I was, again, up in New York. I was ready to move off campus, and I was like just looking at the houses, and it was like in the student housing niche or whatever. And it was like, man, some of these houses are like garbage. Unfortunately owned by what I'd refer to as like a slumlord, or someone who just rips money out of the property. So, I think one of my buddies' dads owned houses, and like I had like super, broad scan of view of how like cash flow works. But like I started researching it, started reading books, and then just pitched my dad and pitched a couple of my buddies on buying up houses in the student housing niche of where I went to school. And I was, at 20 years old, I was house hacking my first house in college. JV'd the house with a couple of my buddies, my dad. We lived in a couple of the rooms, and then we rented out the other rooms. So that was 5 years ago. And now today in the student housing niche, we have like 10 properties, I think ranging like 60 to 70 bedrooms that we rent by the bedroom. Because it's student housing. Obviously nobody's related. So we can kind of maximize that NOI by renting by the bedroom, as opposed to like renting by the unit or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, super interesting. Like again, 20 years old. I just, hey, I have got this good idea. Like,
Yeah.
what do you guys think? Pitched a couple people. Like, hey, we put some money together, and I think something really to harp on is like when it comes to student housing is like we take great care of these students, and we have a great relationship with the university. The university loves us. They obviously they don't like slumlords and stuff, and they don't want their students living in, you know, not safe or not secure or up to code off campus housing. So I mean, they love us even through COVID and stuff like that. I mean, from the day we started, we've never been at less than 100% occupancy. And I mean, we've had probably a kid here and there miss a month of rent, but like nothing significant. I would
Right.
say we collect like upwards of 95 to 98% of rent. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Super interesting how I kind of got started in that though.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, you sort of recognized a need and, sought out a solution to go ahead and fix it. I mean, that's what it is. That's what real estate is, right? Find the opportunity and go and take it. And it sounds like you did. And that's impressive to be starting that during college. So good for you. I often tell people, I'm a veterinary surgeon, and that's my, so W-2 day job. And I train younger people how to do surgery. And so I often talk to them about real estate as well, because I enjoy it and it's interesting, but I'm like, also because I see at their age the advantage of time. Same thing with you. Like when you're starting at 20, you've got a lot of that's the one thing I wish I started sooner. That's the one thing. It's
I
like,
hear that all the time. Yeah. I
yeah,
hear that all the time.
if I could go back and just, I mean, because I've always been interested. I've always done, and I've done it with a single family house flip here and there, but to get really serious about it, back even 10 years in time, the amount of progress that you can make is notable. So good for you starting off early. And you've already got all of these bedrooms, and I think you're right. With student housing, it's you're renting by the room, and you can actually maximize that income. And it's a strategy that seems to be spreading from student housing to even in areas like Los Angeles. There's people are starting to actually build new construction to then rent that new construction out by the room. So it's a strategy that I think a lot of people are looking into, that they're sort of pulling over from the student housing side of things. So it's definitely an interesting way to increase your ability to drive the income.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super, like I said, interesting and to drive that income. But yeah, we do a lot of value add. I mean, we really I can't stress it enough how much we take good care of these places, and it reflects that. You have these landlords out there who are always struggling to get tenants in the house, and we have waiting lists every single month. Phones ringing off the hook for students to get in there. And when you're ripping off the students and you're ripping their security deposits, people aren't going to forget that. And we've never put a single dime. This is like, I could go off for an hour on this, but we've never put a single dime into like marketing or anything like that. It's literally just word of mouth. People love the product. The consumer loves the product, and they tell other consumers. I mean, it's that kind of bottom line easy. And there's no better way. There's no better marketing than a walking billboard, or however you want to say, someone saying that, hey, these guys are really doing it right over here. So yeah, that's how I kind of
the students are telling each other, hey, I love where I live, and they're telling their friends, and everybody's kind of getting by word of mouth. Then you don't necessarily need to, if you've got a waiting list, you don't need to spend the money on marketing. So that's fantastic. I wanted to kind of maybe try and tie back a little bit of some of what you talked about in your sort of background. Is there, I would imagine there is a relation to the things that you went through training to be an Army Ranger, and all your special ops training, and relating that to the mindset and what it takes to become a real estate investor as well. And maybe you can even give us some examples of what, sort of what you went through in your training that I think probably strengthens your body as much as your mind, and sort of allows you to then use that kind of going forward with real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I could if I could hit on one like kind of just key sentence, and it's mindset, it's why, it's everything, it's the core, and it's if I could sum it up in one sentence, it would be willing to do what others are not. Whether that's in the military or real estate. I mean, even volunteering to go to ranger school and to jump out of planes and stuff like that. There are people that will never accomplish that, or go to ranger school and quit on day one or quit on day two of a 60-day school of kind of basically getting your face kicked in. I mean, literally 23 hours a day and 7 days a week. So be willing to do what others are not. And again, just if I could, harp on in my training, I mean, the sleep deprivation, the food deprivation, I think from like day one of ranger school to like day 60, I probably went in at like 200 pounds, and I probably came out at probably like 150 or 160. It speaks to the level of food deprivation that they put your body through, and you're probably averaging probably about 30 to like 45 minutes of sleep per night. So that really harps on the food and the sleep deprivation of that school. And like, you can imagine the level of, once you do that, it's like, hey, I'll
Makes
cold
everything
call
else look
100 people. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
fill in the blank, whatever. I'll
Yeah.
cold call 100 people to get the next commercial property.
Yeah.
But
like, I get to eat and sleep. So yeah, I'll go ahead and do all this other stuff.
hey, I'm not sleeping in like a riverbed tonight when it's like 40 degrees out. I mean, I don't know, fill in the blank. I've probably done it and whatever. But yeah, I mean, just like, if I could, 7 days a week, I mean, getting your face kicked in and doing that type of stuff and coming out on the other side, it's like, hey, anything's possible. But yeah, like when military, real estate, be willing to do what others are not. You are willing to put in that extra work. When you get off work at 5-6 p.m., you finish up your W-2 job, if it's my W-2 job, or if it's training people to operate and to be surgeons on animals and stuff like that. It's like, who's going home to watch Netflix, and who's going home to build out that database, build out that those sellers, who's going home to hit the books, who's going home to get on a podcast or to further their knowledge. I'm curious your thoughts on that, but yeah, that's my biggest thing right there. I mean, that hit me home.
I think you're 100% right. I mean, I haven't gone through any special ops training, but even it's going to sound silly, it's not nearly as brutal as what you went through, but when you go through training as a resident and an intern and things like that to be a specialist, it is similar things where it's like, okay, I work a day, I'm on call all night, so I'm there all night, work the next, so I mean, similar on a smaller scale, sleep deprivation, sometimes you don't get any food all day, that kind of thing. And I think that's common to the surgery world. Like a funny example, not funny if you're going through it, but a lot of surgeons get kidney stones because we don't stop and get any water during the day. Basically, like you're just working all day and you can't have sips of water while you're in surgery. And so it's just kind of a thing. So yes, I totally agree. Those types of experiences teach you what you can really endure, right? What your body can do, what your mind can do. I haven't slept for 3 days, but I still have to go in and do a surgery. You still have to do some tactical maneuvers and things like that with your career. It's being able to, I think a lot of it is use your mind to kind of drive through those things and realize that, hey, probably it still could be worse, right? Like it still could be worse than it is at that moment. And I think you're right on track that it's being willing to do what most people won't do.
Yeah.
Right. It's just, and again, I really hate to use to try and compare what I've done to what you've done because it's not the same level, but
I love animals. I'm a big dog guy.
But it's I mean, it's true. It's like, if it's kind of like the other saying is like, if it was easy, everyone would do it. Right. And it's the same thing with real estate investing. It's not quick. Like you don't get rich overnight. It's getting rich slow. Right. And there's going to be ups and downs. And it's the willingness to say, I'm just going to keep going until it happens. Right. Yeah. And if that takes 6 months or 5 years, I'm just going to keep going until it happens. And so I totally agree. It's like, and you're saying you put in the work after your W-2 job. So it's like I record podcasts in the morning before work, and I record podcasts out and just, getting in the numbers and underwriting at night and stuff. And so but it is what it is, because I see where that can take me. And I know other people are doing it, and I know other people are, people that are successful. It's because they're putting in the work, and it is a sacrifice. And if people don't want to do it, great, that's fine. I don't have any, it's not like an ill will thing to people. That it's actually better that not everybody wants to do this stuff, because it's already competitive as it is. So if every person was willing to do it, then it would be even harder. So it's just kind of, I think, just knowing what you want. And as you said, and again, the name of the podcast, it's knowing why you're doing it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I would tell people, and I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. Whether you're trying to close a property or you're hunting for an off-market deal, or you're going to ranger school. I mean, you just got to clearly define in your mind that nothing is going to make you quit. Right. You're either going to fail, you're either going to succeed, or you're going to die, but you're not going to quit.
Yeah. I mean, you don't fail until you quit. That's another one that I've come across.
I love that one too.
It's a great quote, in the sense that, like, it's true. If I just keep trying, I may have setbacks and negative moments in all of it, but if I don't stop trying to do it, then I haven't failed yet. So it's just kind of there's no, so yeah, I mean, I think you're right on. I mean, it's, and again, you, with special ops training and that stuff, I think it's, you're taking that willingness to do what others aren't to an extreme level. I'm not sure that every person has to go through that just to show that they can be a real estate investor, but I think it certainly prepares you. And for you, especially at such a young age, you've already experienced that level of sacrifice and drive and things like that. I think it's going to be, it's not going to take you long to put that, work ethic and use those experiences and get even more successful than you already are. I think you've got a great foundation. One of the things you also touched on that I thought was a really good point when you were talking about the military is that team aspect. And so it's I also played a lot of sports. I still play, sort of in rec leagues. I play soccer regularly. And so I think for a lot of us athletes and I think military applies as well in terms of that team aspect and camaraderie. I also think that applies to real estate. I don't know how you feel about that in terms of, I know you said, you went in with your dad on these and maybe some other people. So it's not something that is really very doable all on your own in terms of probably almost, I mean, sure, you can buy like a house and do the house. And I've done that, but I think, your point about the team really applies to real estate at sort of the same level as athletics and military.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the biggest thing, and like, we can kind of use this as a bridge to talk how I kind of made the transition to commercial, but I think it was huge from going from like student housing, like mostly residential properties where, really it was just my dad and I, and now we're looking at commercial properties like, hey, like we cannot do this all ourselves. Like, if I own strictly acquisition, then we need like a strictly guy who works on asset management. We need a guy who works strictly with broker, or whatever, investor relations and stuff like that. But yeah, probably about 6 or 9 months, probably 9 months ago, I, just made the decision. I was like, I really want to scale and do this kind of to a bigger scale and start researching the commercial market. And so like, I obviously hit the books. I got on a bunch of podcasts, got into masterminds and stuff like that, and just started researching all I could, and came across, commercial multifamily. And then what really intrigued me was the lucrative niche of affordable housing and mobile home parks. What's super interesting about mobile home parks, and I don't know what your extent of the knowledge of that asset class, but it's pretty interesting. Where about 70 to 80% of the asset class is like owned by its original mom and pop owner from like the 70s and 80s. It's something I would refer to as not very consolidated. It's not, not necessarily owned by large conglomerates. So there's a huge opportunity to go direct to seller, and to kind of cut brokers out of the deal by like cold calling and stuff like that. So basically I just started researching as much as I could about that asset class. I mean, before this, like, yeah, I've driven by mobile home parks and stuff like that, but I'm not gonna lie, I've never stuck, foot in one. But here I am 6 months ago, driving through them. I'm knocking on doors, like asking them, like, how, what do you pay here? How does lot rent work? How does utilities work and stuff like that? So that was super interesting. But I think the best part about mobile home parks, and it's what has that kind of level up on other asset classes, is that true ability to go direct to seller. It's not, when you look at commercial real estate, it's like how much is unconsolidated, like mobile home parks, when you look at multifamily or office or retail or stuff like that. So that's an awesome opportunity. I love going direct to seller. Last December, I started direct mailing mobile home parks, and I sent out like 200 letters. I hand wrote 200 letters, like going back to doing what others will not do. Who's going to get on the couch for an entire weekend and handwrite 200 letters? From a surgeon's point of view, probably not the best, right?
Yeah. Right.
Carpal tunnel, or maybe.
It's a lot. It's a lot on the hands, I'm sure. Yeah.
Long story short, 200 handwritten, personalized letters. And I got one response of a guy who was thinking about selling, I think like 2 to 3 years from now. So not a huge success. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to like say this isn't for me again. I'm like, I know there's a way to do this. So let's pivot. Let's learn from this and let's keep going. So immediately, changed from direct mailing, direct to seller, and started cold calling. And I actually got an off-market deal on my very first cold call, which is probably, for everybody listening, highly unlikely, and don't take it with a grain of salt.
Right. Don't expect that in your as you're cold calling, but that's fantastic if it happens.
Might be referred to as beginner's luck. But long story short, even within that first week, I mean, like 2-3 deals within that month, like 4, 5, 6 off-market deals that obviously, like, the seller's like, man, Jesse, it's funny you called me. Whatever. Last week, I'm, at the Christmas dinner table with my family, and I'm talking to my children, and they're not interested in operating this asset. I'm interested in getting rid of it this year in 2021. I think COVID also scared a lot of owners. This baby boomer population that might be concerned about, collecting rents and stuff like that. So. But yeah, pivoted to cold calling, and in January alone, probably produced, I would say, 6 off-market deals that alone from that produced 2 LOIs. So kind of an interesting start. And like I said, I mean, I started researching that in October, November, and closed the gap to January like that. So super interesting with that. And I'll be honest, every time I submit an LOI, I mean, I'm getting closer and closer. I mean, I'm always like, man, I should have underwrote like this, or geez, I can improve on A, B, and C. But yeah, I mean, I would tell people out there, and this goes to why and mindset and everything. Like, even if you don't have the success on the bottom line yet, if you're closing that knowledge gap every day, you're progressing. And I'm telling you that you're winning. Like, even when I look at where I was at 6 months ago, never stepping foot in a mobile home park, to this week, where we're hours away from submitting an offer on a 141 lot park that we're like the lead contender for, hopefully going to have it tied up before the end of the week. Like, dude, I'm telling you, like, anything is possible. You just got to put in the consistent work and take massive action every single day. So, but that's how absolutely. I just want to like tell you how I kind of breached into the commercial side, and how I kind of gotten started in that for the last like 6 months or so. But yeah.
I mean, I think that's phenomenal progress. And I think it actually brings up a good point in that, okay, you tried direct mail, you sent out all the letters, you got one response. Now you could keep doing direct mail, and you could still keep doing direct mail. However, you decided to try another, all right, the first tool in my toolbox isn't working out great for me. I'm going to try this other tool. Well, now I'd say that's a pretty excellent conversion rate in that if you're getting a number of different responses that are positive about selling their asset, and then you're getting to the point of being able to submit LOIs with them and being in contention, sure, who cares if you haven't, I know you care if you don't get them, but the point is it hasn't been that long.
No.
And you're making progress, and every time a little bit more, and every time you underwrite one of these deals, you're going to be able to sort of sharpen the pencil, as they say, and be a little bit tighter on your numbers. And maybe that means going forward you'll be able to offer a little bit more because you'll feel more comfortable, or it means you figure out that you just aren't willing to take a bad deal, which is better. That no deal is better than a bad deal. And so I think you're right on. You're doing what you need to do, and it'll happen. Like I have no doubt that if I bring you back in a year, you'll be like, oh, now I have 500 mobile home units, and that I think your success is as close to guaranteed as it can be. So I look forward to seeing what you do. So I think what you're doing in the space is great. I think you've already got your student housing portfolio sitting there, making you money, and now you're sort of branching into commercial and just essentially scaling up. So talk a little bit about maybe what do you have a team in place as far as the mobile home parks go, or are you just kind of doing this on your own so far, trying to find a deal, and then you'll establish the team? What's your strategy?
Yeah, so obviously I got into the student housing with my dad. So it's basically us and him and I primary. But I've established a team through just being in a mastermind as well. I'm in what's called active duty passive income. It's a real estate investing mastermind of all military guys. So it's really cool to work with those guys and stuff like that. But I've worked with other mobole home park guys in that mastermind, and they're going to come in on this deal as well. But I would say my job on the team, I deal solely in acquisition. Okay. Keeping the pipeline full and doing that. But yeah, I love the acquisition side. I think people out there are like, I'm definitely like kind of awkward on the phone. Like I feel like everybody is a little awkward when you're talking to new people. And
cold calling is weird. Yeah, it's cold calling is an uncomfortable thing. It's very hard to just because even if you're not awkward, or the person's going to be like, why are you calling me? So I think it's again the sort of the willingness to push through that awkwardness.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like every cold call is going to get better. You're going to feel, every time you're going to be like, it's okay. Most of the people are going to say no. That doesn't matter. That doesn't deter me. I'm going to keep going. So I imagine it's not really a you thing in terms of the awkwardness on the phone. It's just an awkward process. And so getting through it is, it's just like anything else. You just make it happen.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's like an awkward process. People don't like doing it. So it's like, hey, that's something I should do. People don't like doing that. And people aren't willing to do that to find deals. Like, hey, I'll do that to find deals. I don't care. I've had people say a lot worse things to me on the phone than just no. Right. If they think, if they think they're going to hurt my feelings or make me, crawl into my bed and cry myself to sleep, I usually just hang up the phone and I dial the next number and get the next deal.
Right.
You're not gonna hurt my feelings. So, but yeah, people don't like cold calling, and that's the exact 100% reason why I do it, because other people don't like doing it. Mm-hmm. And they can, the deals they don't get, I'll pick them up. I've got no issue with that. So, but yeah, on to kind of go back to the team, and I think the team is so important, and everybody says it. And like, I know I don't want to be cliche and like, beat a dead horse, but like, if you want to go bigger, faster, you need a team in place. You need a dude banging the phones every day. You need a dude, talking to investors every day, raising capital. If you're already in the asset management phase, hopefully we will be here within the next month or two, but we need a dude who solely is dealing with that asset management. Talking to that property manager every day. If it's a park in the Northeast, he's lining up, obviously, snow removal, trash, whatever, cutting the grass. Everything, but yeah, I know it's cliche, if you want to go bigger, faster, and you can kind of get away with it, I think, a little bit in the residential side, and we definitely get away with it a little bit in the student housing, but with this commercial mobile home parks, especially with this 141 lot, like no, like we need guys like solely dedicated to asset management and guys solely dedicated to whatever raising capital and acquisition and stuff like that. I think people out there who try to, do everything themselves, or you're going to struggle. And worse than that, you're just going to go way slower. What you could have accomplished in a year will take you 2 years or 3 years or something like that. I'm curious your thoughts on that, on kind of going bigger and growing that team now.
Oh, I mean, I think you're 100% right. And it's actually something that, sort of I struggled with definitely initially myself, in the sense that I've always kind of been a do-it-yourself guy. So it's like, I basically, I've done a lot of construction things. So it's like, I can remodel an entire house by myself. It's probably not the best use of my time. It's not easy to do it by myself. And it's like, but you can do it if it's just one single house. But yeah, when you get into the flipping that, sort of mindset into, it's just, I don't care how willing you are to do things other people won't do. There just isn't enough time in the day, even if you don't sleep, to do everything yourself. So it definitely, it's virtually impossible without a team around you. And like you said, there's the sort of lanes that people sit in with the acquisitions and the capital raising and asset management and underwriting, all of that. And maybe you can do a couple of the lanes in the beginning and someone else can do a couple. But yeah, it's definitely something that as you grow and scale, you're gonna need other people, maybe even 2 people in acquisitions, or 3, just depending on, because you need deals and you need money, right? So those 2 areas are probably where you're going to need, multiple people in those positions earlier in the game. I think is probably, you may not need, if you have third-party management, do you need a bunch of guys working on asset management? Probably not, but you want to keep the deal flow, and you need to keep, capital coming. So it's kind of, I think those are probably what it seems like most people focus on and grow first within each, company.
Yeah, I agree. And to kind of caveat off that, so another way I think of it, and I had this conversation with my dad just last night, it's like, and I've been there where you're remodeling the kitchen and you're doing like student housing. We do a lot of the work ourselves. And that's why I said it wasn't super scalable in the beginning and stuff like that. I think that by building a team and scaling to larger, it allows you to stop doing the like 10 cents an hour tasks, or the $2 an hour tasks of tiling and painting and whatnot. And it allows you to focus on the $1,000 an hour tasks, or the $10,000 an hour tasks. When you talk about multiplying capital and scaling to larger and larger assets, like I want a team, I want the main team members focused, doing everything they can to push the ball forward on those $10,000 an hour tasks.
Exactly.
But I think that's so crucial, and kind of another way to look at it too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that the team is key. It's like I said, going back to sports or military, this is stuff that you can't, it's not a single person event. It's not, there's just no way around it to do it without, even if you're a track athlete and you're competing as in a single person event, you still got coaches and trainers. Sure. There are still other people that contribute to your success. So it's just kind of knowing how to build that team. And if you aim to scale, I think it's very crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Jesse, tell me, we talked a little bit about, we sort of talked a lot about, but like I said, the podcast is called Know Your Why. And so I think it's interesting to me. That's been, when I listen to other podcasts and I hear, people at conferences and things like that, what drives them makes a big difference, right? So I think because I think from the outside looking in, people think everybody just wants to get rich, but I don't think that's enough of a why, right? That's not enough. It's nice, it's nice to have money so that you have freedom, but it's not generally enough of a reason to go through it all, because it isn't easy. And so young, a lot younger, I think, than a lot of investors in terms of, sort of really getting serious about it. So like for me, my why is my son. My son was born, and it was like, oh yeah, I need the time. It's not even about the money. It's like, I need something that provides me time to spend with him. Whereas, doing surgery, as much as I love it, I can't play with him in the OR. Like it doesn't work. So tell me, sort of for you, what drives you, what, I guess we know from your background, what drives you, what's your vision of the future look like?
Yeah, I mean, the future, the 30-year-old Jesse Futia or 5 years from now is cash flowing, 6 figures a month. Again, the goal isn't necessarily money or anything like that, but I think one of the awesome parts, and you already talked about it and why, is I think kind of to also hit on it is the freedom that it provides you. I mean,
Right.
to just, hey, whatever, I'm going to stay home with my kid today. He's sick. I don't have to, go into and do work or whatever. But I think the freedom of when I look at like, hey, what's like the base here, of the real estate, really, it's just the freedom that it provides you of being able to do whatever you want, to provide for your family or to go on vacation or to, I don't want to, and I'm curious. And again, you're already a dad. My goal is to be a dad here. I'm married, my wife Mallory, but we want to be parents here within the next year. I don't want to be the dad that is missing the games. Like,
Yeah.
That was an awesome part. Like that, my dad's my business partner now, but like my best memories are like him coming to my wrestling matches or my lacrosse games. Like, and I'm sure you want to share that with your son too.
Yeah.
But
It's
like
exactly
that freedom, that freedom to be like, hey, I love the military, but like, I don't want to have kids and be gone like 9 months of the year. Like, I want to be the
Right.
dad that doesn't miss a single like game from the first game to the last game, however long they play, wherever they go.
Yeah.
Everybody wants. I'm going to say when he's playing baseball for the New York Yankees, you probably want your son to play for that team.
The Red Sox. Yeah, I know. That team that you don't want to mention. Yeah.
but yeah, like freedom and just being the dad that never misses the games, if I could sum it up like that. But that's the future, Jesse. Yeah, there's like, I'm attaching a number to it, but really the base of it is the freedom, to be the dad that never misses games. But one last thing I kind of wanted to hit on, and I think it's something also important, and it just wraps and kind of ties everything up. And when I look at in my own career and not only the military, but in real estate, like something I was thinking about just today, getting ready, for us to talk tonight, I was like, why do people quit? What's the base reason of people quitting? And it's like so awesome that I got to come on the show and talk to you today, because I truly believe that the number one reason, if you could put one word on why people quit, it's why. Their why wasn't strong enough, or it wasn't deep enough inside them, or whatever. If that's real estate, if that's military, if that's sports, or whatever. And it just goes to show the why is just, you cannot. It's priceless. I mean, it's literally, you can't go anywhere else until you have that why established. And I truly believe it is the number one reason. If I'm not a psychologist, but it's the reason why people quit.
Yeah.
It's because they don't have a strong enough why. But yeah, that's the future, Jesse. And that's that was just something I thought of. I kind of wanted to share, like, wrapping things up tonight, about what I was thinking about all day, and just pumped to come on the show with you. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're 100% right. I think it's just your why gives you the ability to push through on those hard days, because there's gonna be hard days, and there's gonna be disappointment, and there's gonna be times where it doesn't go your way. And it's like, you hear the stories about people that had sort of major losses in real estate and then just kept going. And I think the other thing to me about the why is that I actually think, if you're talking about from attracting investors and capital raising and things like that, I think a lot of times it's that why that brings people to you to invest in your deals, right? So it's like, I think a good example of this is, who Whitney Sewell is?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I listen to
his podcast is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But when I started listening to him, on his podcast, at the end, it's like, we give 50% of our profits to families trying to adopt children. And I'm like, I don't need to hear any more. I want to invest with him. Right. It's like, here's someone. And so that is a big part of us with Lark Capital, is like to give back. Right. It's like, I think you talked about putting a number on it. I think the number gives you a tangible, objective thing to look at.
Yeah.
As to a place you're trying to get. And then you can kind of figure out what that means. You know what I mean? Like, okay, if I'm getting 6 figures in passive income every month, I probably don't need to spend 6 figures in passive income every month, but imagine what I can do with that, right?
Yeah.
Like, imagine how many people I can help, how much, how, aside from just the setting up your own family with, sort of a legacy, you have that ability to impact those around you, so I think it's just, I think the money it's a tool to what, and you deserve to take advantage of your hard work and have things that you want. For us in our life, it's more of a, like, experiences is what I love, so much as to having items. You know what I mean? It's not the material side. It's just like,
sure,
like you said, like being able to, if you want to be at your kids' every game, you want to be able to, go on vacations with them, have big experiences. To me, that's where it comes from. And so I think you and your wife will, you're already looking at it before the kids even get here. That's, I can tell you from firsthand experience, that's the time to do it, because once they're here, you want to spend time with them. So
it's going to get busy. I'm sure my life will get way busier.
Yes, it does. It does in a good way. It does impact your time in a good way. So it's great that you're, sort of looking out at all of that, kind of in advance. Jesse, tell me something that you want listeners to know about you. It doesn't have to be real estate invested. Just, sometimes I think it's some a hobby, some guilty pleasure, some just something goofy that gets people to know you. What do you have? What would you like to share?
I am an avid. This isn't crazy or anything, but whatever. I go bowling once a week. I'm in a bowling league. I love smashing the pins. I have my own ball and stuff like that. I don't know. Probably not many guys out there.
Yeah.
But maybe not like a goofy thing, but I don't know. It's just like time to get away with the guys and we're like, hey, let's go smash some pins.
You know who Mookie Betts is, right?
Yeah, I know he is.
Yeah. So he was like, well, he's on the Dodgers now. So but he was with the Red Sox. He's like maybe better at bowling than he is at baseball. Like,
no
that's
way.
his thing.
I did not know this.
Yeah, he's like a huge bowler, which is pretty fun. He puts on like benefit charity type bowling events all the time. Yeah, he is a phenomenal bowler. That's like a very funny thing they used to talk about him in Boston all the time. It's like, in the off season, he doesn't practice baseball. He's bowling. So
that's funny.
You're not alone. You're not alone in that. But it's a funny. I'm terrible at it, but I think it's impressive when people are good at that.
If I'm ever on the West Coast, we'll go.
That's right. That'd be fine. How would you like people to reach you? Is there a best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, just hit me up on LinkedIn. That's what I like. I eat, breathe, sleep LinkedIn. I'm on there all day long. So, but yeah, I'm sure my name will be in the show notes or something like that.
Yeah, we'll have whatever you'll send me, whatever links, we'll get it all in there. And so everybody will have, however you want them to reach out to you. Do you have a website or anything like that?
I mean, just direct message me or however you can. I love to get on a phone call with anybody and everyone, even if it's not real estate related. I'm always down to network and stuff like that. So
perfect. And I guess just one last question before we wrap up, Jesse. Is there anything that I or anyone listening can do to help you forward your business? Is there something that you need, that you would like to put out there that we all can help?
Nothing in particular, Jason. I mean, I love what you're doing here with the podcast and stuff like that. I mean, I'm a huge believer in that steel sharpens steel. So anytime I can get on the radio or, whatever, a call or podcast or anything like this, and I can talk to another dude who's out there trying to get after it like me, I appreciate everything that you do. And yeah, man, it was just great to get on the phone with you and to talk and stuff like that. But I love talking to other real estate investors. So, But yeah, man, I love what you're doing. Keep up the podcast. It was a blast coming on here. And like I said, you already hit it, but I'm coming back a year from now, and it's going to be there's going to be a lot more to talk about.
I have no doubt. Sorry, the landscaper just showed up, so there's like a leaf blower going by at the moment.
No, you're good.
It's probably our signal to wrap it up, so we don't have to scream over the leaf blower. But Jesse, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you coming on. I love hearing your story. Everything is very inspiring, very impressive. Again, thank you for your service to our country. You're a very inspirational guy. So I look forward to keeping in touch, and definitely look forward to having you back on and hearing all the big things that are to come for you.
Absolutely, Jason. Thanks again, brother. It was a blast. This is a huge part, mindset, why it's super important. Again, I had a blast tonight, brother. Thanks for having me on. Go Yankees. God bless America. You're the man, Jason. Appreciate it, brother.
All right. Take it easy.